life already. Yes, welcome to the Covenant People's Parliament, and tonight we are going to be looking at a number of socio-political issues, as we always do. My name is Mr. Ako Christian Ache, and with the studio with me is Citizen Dharma. Glad to have you joining us live in Covenant People's Parliament. We'll be touching on a number of topics tonight. So I will be starting with episode kind of once pertaining to Nigeria's underdevelopment and trends of propaganda. That's political propaganda. Because you are aware of how Nigerian politicians, particularly the APC-led administration, have invested heavily in propaganda machines across the country, especially the social media platform. Trending stories that we have here is number one, obedience staked 1.2 million naira as a bet on anyone that can lay hold on an old tweet coming from either Omojua, Reno, FFK, Daniel Bwala, and co. Should anyone have any old tweet where they are acknowledging the performance of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, that person will go home with nothing less than 1.2 million naira. Of course, the has been increased. They've increased the price tag. Another person has added over 500,000 naira, making it 1.7 million naira that are staked. For anyone who can lay hold on an old tweet, that is a tweet acknowledging President Bola Ahmed Tinubu performance when he was governor of Lagos State, having that if those old tweets are tilting towards acknowledging the efforts, the contribution, the impact of Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration as the then Lagos State governor, that person will go home with 1.2 million. As the last time I checked on X, the price tag has increased from 1.2 million to 1.7 million. Wow. So, and this at the same vein, some old tweets are already digging out where they have the same personalities like Omojua, Woye, and FFQ, Reno Mokri, all having their say on the impacts of Mr. Peter Obi's as the governor of Anambra State, where they acknowledge his tremendous investment education and all forms of investment that he has made on behalf of the Anambra State government. Number two, we'll be looking at Mahmuda. Mahmuda is a terrorist organization that come up southwest, particularly in areas of Kwara State where they have seized a number of hectares of land to themselves. But we understand that the DSS has been able to arrested the kingpin of the Mahmuda-led terrorist organization. We really hope it will not lead to any form of repentant stories at the end of the day. Third on the headline is Blazer Agent on an X account. Blazer Agent has come out to call out the Deeper Life School for outrageously billing Nigerians with high tuition fee, where he cried out that he cannot imagine raising over 900,000 naira just to pay for his child's school fees in a Deeper Life school that is believed to be a missionary school that is supposed to be the cheaper option for the masses. But then it's the costly, the missionary schools in Nigeria are the costliest for the masses to ever think about being able to patronize. Of course, then number four, we'll be looking at Kwara Agency. Kwara Agency workers in charge of data have been laid off of their job simply because they have refused to inflate the number of population of Kwara State ahead of the propaganda that's been out for 2027. We understand through the news report that we have that according to Sahara Reporter, Kwara agency workers have been laid off because they refuse to play along the game of the propaganda of inflating the population of Kwara State to over 3.7 million population. They insist that the accurate figure that is existing must be respected and must be retained. To this end, they've been laid off, and there is a cry for justice on their behalf. Tonight, our discussion will be focusing on our episode for today, which is kind of worms pertaining to Nigeria's underdevelopment and trends of political propaganda. Nigerian politicians have been fond of investing heavily on image whitewashing. They've tried to invest heavily to ensure that the outside world, the Nigerian uninformed population, are able to see through their narrative of propaganda as against the obvious reality of what is on ground. And with me in the studio, here we'll be having this elaborate discussion with Mr. Citizen Dama, who of course has introduced himself much earlier on. And I'll be giving him the forum so that he will have a say on when it has to do with the kind of worms responsible for Nigeria underdevelopment as well as the political propaganda. Please, you have the mic. Thank
you. Thank you very much. The host due process for the amazing job you're doing for COPDEM, the alliance, and the country. Your patriotism and imputes the struggle cannot go unnoticed. I applaud you, and it's a privilege to sit on this table dissecting the issues bordering on our country and how we as young people can lend ways to, salvaging our country going through a very terrible descent. I myself, it is number here, I'm a youth advocacy leader or an activist from the target. I drive an initiative called African Youth Advocacy Network, which focuses on engaging Nigerian people, the African youth, in nation building and also finding ways to empower them via other means. So for me, the youth remains the figure. And I think that is on that premise I'm here representing the African youth, the Nigerian youth, and how we can contribute, which you're also doing with your, constant efforts from the time I've known you over years ago. Now, I don't know where you want me to come in.
Okay, before you come in, let me take you on the back. Viewers or those who are telling us that the blame, in case you want to have it, make feel free to call the number 080 6255 790. Call the 080 6255 790. Tonight, the studio who have been known for his having a mind of his own, standing for what have you do the right. Before we go on the topic of looking at Nigeria development, of course, the propaganda that has been pushed by the political elite. Let me take first on the ground. Nigeria as a country is an oil producing country. Nigeria is also blessed abundant resources as well as human capital resources that also have added value in terms of the development of the country. But what we have in the country is poverty, increasing poverty in the midst of plenty. When we imagine that the same resources that countries like China, Iran, all these countries, the level of resources they have is Nigeria doesn't have more. But when it comes to citizen impact in terms of development, the impact Nigerian citizens are getting for the abundant resources, gold, diamond, and all what we do. It is in this point that we are trying to look at the Nigeria and the development. What is playing out in terms of narrative by the political elite? Nigeria as a country, from previous years before the advent of democracy in Nigeria, Nigeria was able to sustain a refining of crude oil into petrol, into diesel, and into what have you. In general, the processing, the refining process of all of Nigeria's crude oil was being done locally. But with the advent of the the APC administration, the advent of the APC administration, we saw in Nigeria we are now depending on importation of fuel, which I, for one, find it difficult to understand why the oil producing country is uncalled for, unacceptable. It is in this point that we need to look at what are actually responsible for the development. The current sitting president of the person of Mr. Bola was allegedly accused of being involved in the refinery in Malta, where huge quantities of containers and imported fuel. And one will imagine why is this the happening in a country that also produces fuel, also producing diesel and water. We are not supposed to be exporting of such products. If the country is actually mindful production, and any country that is not producing is bound to fail because your money will be very useless, your currency very, very useless because it will not be engaged, it will not be sought after. Rather, both locally and people will be running after the dollar. Even in the corridors of the outcome. So I'll leave it up to Stephen Dama to have a lovely discussion on this. I guess studio. So please go on and have your say on what are the factors that contributed to the underdevelopment of Nigeria as a country.
Let's take very well, very well. Thank you for handling me the baton appropriately. I can't wait to speak on this. You know, as a very, very dissatisfied Nigerian youth and African, a Pan-Africanist for that matter. I mean, if you do a quick Google search right now on your phone, if you are watching this program, you see, just enter into your browser the consists of Nigerian underdevelopment. Some of the points that will pop up on your screen will be something like corruption, political instability, a reliance on a single export commodity, trying to talk about the monoculture state of Nigerian economy dependent on oil, you know. Then you hear something like inadequate infrastructure, then poor governance and a dysfunctional socio-political structure. And this is what the artificial intelligence will give you, which I call crap. Because this is exactly the kind of narrative they sell in the global community, where they misinform the people about what happens in Africa and Nigeria, to be precise. But for me, I do not think the problems bedeviling Nigeria's development borders more on these things. I can limit the major causes for Nigeria underdevelopment to 4 key factors. 1, a very skewed fraudulent constitution. 2, poor electoral system. 3, lack of patriotism. And 4, the colonial imperialistic interests in what is going on in Nigeria and Africa at large. So my point will be hinged on these 4 factors. There are a lot of issues bordering on the problem of Africa and Nigeria, to be precise. But I choose to limit my conversation on these four points, which is a very skewed constitution. And then we talk about the poor electoral system. We talk about the colonial interests, talking about new colonialism, and then talking about patriotism. I want to limit my own conversation, my beam on this four factor. And if you want me to highlight, I go ahead to start. Here with me is a copy of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended. And now, if you look at this Constitution, here with me, I didn't print this. It reads, I'm reading from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It tells you, before the first schedule, we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is where a lot of people are having issues. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you categorically, there has never been a time Nigeria has had a people's constitution. From the 1979 constitution to the 1999 constitution or whatnot, even 1951, all that Clifford constitution, McPherson constitution, all those constitutions were a reflection of imperialistic interests. Even as we speak, Nigerians are still yearning for a people's constitution. So on that background, you understand that we have, you can't set up a building and expect it to last on a very faulty foundation. The foundation, which is the grand norm guiding the actions and inactions of the people of Nigeria, depends or is pivoted on the Constitution. And where the Constitution is faulty and fraudulent, of course, you always get chaos, anarchy, and underdevelopment. And the people of Nigeria have been yearning for a people's constitution, but that seems to be falling on deaf ears.
All right, so talking about the people's constitution, we actually have vision of how they want their constitution to be designed and the items they want to see in their constitution. There are previous reports by the 2014 where the then President
Jonathan
assembled the best friend in the country to bring about the people's constitution. Of course, that did not see the light of the day. And subsequent government have always tilted towards what they refer to as amendment of the 1999 Constitution. When you look at it critically, you realize that the same old guards are the one in charge of this amendment process. And even recently, there was this meeting convergence of Nigerians from across different walks of life who gathered in Abuja in an attempt to have a constitutional review process.
Yeah.
Particularly when you look at the composition of these people, you hardly see the young people in the midst or in the head of this constitutional amendment process. To this end, what would be your advice in terms of having a constitution for the future of Nigeria? I think it will be a very ugly step when we are talking about the future of Nigeria. And the youths, the young Nigerians are not part of the discussion. What would you have to say about
that is the reason why I said the issues bedeviling Nigeria and its development are multifaceted. It's a very complex situation. Like sometimes some people even take it spiritual, but for me, there's no spiritual about Nigeria's problem. They're all man-made. We are all suffering from foreign and interest and local thieves. We have the foreign thieves called the imperialists, that's the foreign countries like France and the rest of them that have very, very bad interests in Africa. And they are collaborating with our brothers and sisters who are in power, the politicians, the local thieves. So this kind of criminal enterprise of foreign and local thieves are the ones making everything possible. And now you talk about how do we get a people's constitution. They say when a fish wants to get rotten, it starts from the head. And when the head is rotten, the entire body of the fish is rotten. What it means is that when you don't get your leadership correct, everything is going to, even the Bible says a blind man cannot lead a blind man. What it means is that leadership is very pivotal to any country's development, just like we saw in Singapore with Lee Kuan Yew. Do you get what I'm saying? And now, how do you not get a people's constitution without the proper leadership that wants the progress and development of the country? You understand? Now, that takes you to the electoral system that gives you the platform for people to make choices of the representatives they want in the corridors of power. You understand? So you see that when you look at these, the 4 points I listed, they are kind of intertwined in the sense that for you to get a people's constitution, you need the leadership that has the desire and passion to see the general welfare of the majority of the people of Nigeria. Do you get the point? So when you have a leadership of crooks and cronies like the ones in power right now, you wouldn't expect like a criminal to offer you something beyond what he already possesses, which is crime and iniquity and all whatnot. So basically, what I'm saying there is that this kind of National Assembly, as we have in Akpabio and the rest of them, in the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Representatives cannot give you a people's constitution, but they are not representing the people, they are representing their belly, what we call the policies of stomach infrastructure. So the problem here is that we do not have the leadership that is sincere for the welfare of this country and its citizens. Yes. And that makes it difficult that even if you converge the best brains in the world to give you a document that will metamorphose into the best constitution in Nigeria, that needs the essence of the man at the helm of affairs, who wouldn't do that, then it becomes filtered. That takes us back to the electoral system.
Yes, talking about the way among Nigerian leaders emerge, bringing from the National Assembly, presidency, government, government chairman, whatever. The electoral system has come under serious intervention by Nigerians across the country. What would be your advice going into now that we have seen the loophole that affected outcome of the general?
That also highlights my fourth point, lack of patriotism. Talking about 2027, the reason why the people's mandate was trampled in 2023 was because we didn't have enough Nigerians who were patriotic enough to die for this country. You see how these things are intertwined? They are actually related, like they are kind of intertwined. These four factors I listed, like you can't pick one and leave the others. They are all married together. Now you talk about how, looking at 2027. 2027 might be another reflection of 2023 if people are not willing to stand for their rights and reclaim their countries. And that is patriotism. Patriotism drives you to even lay down your life for your country, if you love your country. The problem we have in this country is that the bad guys, the bad eggs, according to Chibika and Mechu, who are not up to 100,000 in this country, are willing, the likes of Asai Dokubo, Tony Kabaka, and Solomo, and the whole bunch of them, are willing to lay down their lives for the criminality they perpetrate. Where the good guys who claim to be more patriotic and decent, who speak good English, like us, are not willing to die for what they believe in. That is why you come to a polling unit and you see thugs, less than 3 people, dispatch a crowd of 200 people, of young people made up of men and women with blood running their veins. That tells you we are not, and if you listen to people like Dati Baba Ahmed, don't know the value of democracy. Democracy does not come cheap. Look at what happened in America with the election between the Democrats and the Republicans. When they played the Democrats played the card they played and they removed Trump. You saw the reaction of Trump supporters on the Capitol Hill. You saw it. And they bounced back in 2024. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's essentially not shared. What advice are you giving?
2027, people who believe in the project called Nigeria should be willing to lay down their lives for Nigeria. That is my own definition of patriotism. When you see the criminals and the enemies of the soul of this country coming to steal your mandate and to trample on it, you will say no, and you stand and defend what you believe in. This is exactly what I did. I do not stop. I'm an activist. In my polling units, I defended my polling units. I shut it down until the DSS picked me up, took me to the collection center where I stood and made sure the polling unit of the result of my polling unit was uploaded to IREV. And I confirmed it myself. I was there till 12 o'clock midnight before I left there. That is patriotism. Yes. I wasn't an agent. I wasn't an assigned agent of that polling unit, but I stood to defend what I believed in. So that is the point. People should be willing to lay down their lives, just like the lives of Asai Dokubo and the whole bunch of them, like Reno Mokri, who was castigating Tinubu, calling him a drug lord now not in London. Today he's now wearing Agbada, singing the Mandela song because of his belly. So we should be willing to stand and remove emotions. Remove emotions. This is politics. This is power. Remove emotions and do the business.
All right. We have some guests in this who probably will have two questions. And in case you are joining us, please unmute and let's hear from you if you have questions for our guests in the studio. Anyone there? If you have questions or you have contribution you want to make? I think I saw. All right. So let's continue. We touched on the constitution, we touched on the elections, and we so far done justice history. When it comes to the colonial, the new colonialism,
or the imperial interest, yeah.
Nigeria, protecting and projecting the European interests, the foreign interest, the imperialist, ensuring that Africa remains underdeveloped. You can see what is happening in Traore. To the best I know, the people of Burkina Faso are happy with his pride. He's trying to bring about development in their country, multifaceted direction. But then, the imperialists have problems with that. You can see the constant attack, the constant criticism is facing from countries like France and others. What's your response?
Well, I mean,
how can you relate that to the Nigerian situation where our president is lying the same bed with the president of France?
Well, it's obvious when I call them foreign things and local things, because all these nomenclature, imperialists, neo-colonialists, they are all thieves. They are selling and mining our human and natural resources, collaborating with our brothers and sisters who are in politics, the worst of us, who are in the corridors of power. So these guys are just here to steal the human and natural resources. That's why they have interest in Africa, not like they love you, not like they care. Now you talk about colonial interest. It's obvious. You cited the case of Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traore and the good job he's doing for his people, and suddenly the West woke up and they wanted to eliminate him. Why? I mean, why? There has been a report of over 18 assassination attempts on his life. Why? When we have people like Paul Biya, when we have people in Togo, the young man in Togo whose father was there, I mean, a father and son have been in power for over half a century, running Togo down. Togo is just like a desert place. We have countries in Africa that need quick attention, like Nigeria. Why are they not coming for such people? Why are they always going for the right guys like they did to Patrice Lumumba of the Congo? Why are they coming after the likes of Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana? Simply because these guys are going to enlighten and empower their people. Why did they take out Muammar Gaddafi? Go and check the story behind the success of Muammar Gaddafi and what he did for the people and his dream and vision for Africa. That was why they took him out. So basically, colonial interests and foreign interests in the affairs of Nigeria is not for our interests. It's just for their interest to steal and mine our human and natural resources. And that is why, how have you ever come to wonder why is it that each time we have a presidential election, your representatives will go to Chatham House to do what? Have you ever seen a time when any country in Europe or Asia or Middle East will be having a presidential election and they come to Africa or they come to Nigeria to give a statement of their report card? Have you ever seen that happen? Did Donald Trump come to Nigeria to defend why he was going to become the president of America? No. So why would our presidential aspirants in Nigeria go to Chatham House, London? Because that is where the puppet masters are. They are going there to get approbation.
Yes, talking about Chatham House, we've had previously their presidential candidates have deemed it like a tradition for them to have a larger audience. But going to 2027, what is your what advice you want to any presidential candidate in respect to going to Chatham House?
The point is that most of these people who, this generation representing us, a lot of we young people have now woken up to realize that the generation ahead of us seem not to be getting it right. I don't think tomorrow, if I wake up to vie for the office of the president of Nigeria, I'll be going to anywhere beyond the shores of Nigeria. But because these guys believe they're inferior and they are, they are kind of subservient to this colonial interest, that's why they behave the way they did, the way they do. Unlike the likes of Ibrahim Traore and Thomas Sankara, who needed to fight for their people. I don't think before Ibrahim Traore took power in Burkina Faso, he signaled France or the West or Asia or anybody or Russia that he was going to take power for the welfare of his people. He just took power. He didn't kowtow to the West or to the East before he did that. The same way, I mean, it's not a mindset thing. You see your president Tinubu jumping from one country to the other in the name of looking for foreign direct investment. That is all charade. God knows what he's doing, probably going for medical tourism in the guise of going for foreign direct investment. You understand? Seeking approval from foreign countries when you're a sovereign nation. So I'm not in the minds of these people. I'm speaking my own mind. I do not think tomorrow if I wake up and I want to contest for the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will need to go to even a nearby country or anybody to defend why I want to serve my people. That's totally unacceptable and I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. So 2027, if anybody feels good to go to Chatham House or elsewhere in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean or the Mediterranean Sea to seek the attention and the blessings of the gods for them to serve my country, that's their business. I'm not in their minds. I'm not in their minds.
All right, so thank you for making so blunt, and we don't expect any presidential piece of the youthful mindset to go ahead in 2027, going traveling long distance to go and make any presentation in Chatham House. Enough is enough. We are now talking about African, right? If you have any need to make presentation of projection or analysis of reason why you want to be the number one person in the country, that should be done amidst us. We look at it, we will be sure it's Nigeria is a sovereign, and we have no business traveling abroad to go and make any presentation. If that has been an error of the past, enough is enough. And it's time to renew to reject the Africanism of, because the whites, the foreign interest, the European countries never come to Africa to come and tell us this is why they want to be president, right? So we don't have reason traveling to Europe or to America, to whichever part of the country, try to explain to any media platform as the reason why we want to contest. We understand that Nigerians in diaspora make a strong population of the Nigerian population. But then, if any presidential candidate is travel abroad, we expect you to have this interaction with the Nigerian population. And of course, the larger African body of the diaspora, not having to have this presentation to any European or foreign.
Just to cut it short, most of the time, Pan-Africanists like us argue that much of what was handed over to a lot of African countries was just a flag independence. For example, during presidential elections in this country, the last election, you saw a lady, Catriona Lian, the British diplomat, truncating and crisscrossing the country, more or less supervising the local election here in Nigeria. So do a comparison, like, do you ever see an African diplomat doing a similar job in Europe or in the West or in Asia? More or less discussing the country, getting red carpet reception, commenting on issues about a sovereign nation. More like directing, or at the end of the day, the entire election process was rigged and messed up. What did they do? They allowed someone who wasn't the people's choice to trump the election and steal the people's mandate. What did they do? They gave him handshake, because that's the kind of person they need. They need blind people to be leading the countries in Africa. They wouldn't want stand minds like Peter Obi and the whole good lot, the lot of good people we have in this country to be at the helm of affairs. They always want the worst of us to be at the helm of affairs. People they have pies on. They could pull strings, pull their puppets. So have you ever wondered, why is it that when we have elections in this country, we have foreign diplomats crisscrossing, traversing the length and breadth of this country, like they are supervising their project, their business? Is Nigeria a business, a Western business or enterprise? Maybe you need to help me answer that question.
Of course, what we have in the country currently is not leadership made from home, but leadership home by foreign just feel they can put leaders who are less competent, the worst among the Nigerian people, the worst among the African people, being imposed to rule on the cases. Talking about the man that is speaking currently in Astro, of course, he has a file target respect to drug here over $440 million was completed. $460 million was completed in respect of the whole drug trafficking. And the matter was done out of court settlement here in money.
I think that was about $260,000.
Okay, so these are some of the things. The country we need leaders that reflect the youngness, the market. We need leaders that are homemade, not imported or forced or imposed. To this end, we are about to close, and I would like to make reference to the position of people like Professor Lumumba, who has always stood his ground, showing that he stands for the Pan-African. Every Nigerian youth, every African youth, we need to understand that there is no foreign country that will come and solve the challenges of home. For decades, Africa has faced lack of access to countries with water. Africa has faced the lack of access to basic amenities, infrastructure. We are still grappling with power, different power, lack of basic health care, and having with lack of functional skills. These are basic necessities of life. Ordinarily, many countries of the world are not talking about it. But in Africa, it's why we think that the worst among us is the first Europe. So, come 2027, encourage our young Nigerians see it as a fundamental duty to get involved, not just to vote, not just to stand, but then to ensure that our vote counts. Going to fair election is an election that will decide the survival of many Nigerians. It's an election that will decide whether the terrorism in Nigeria will be unabated, or if it will lead to a total eradication of all forms of terrorism in our motherland. So Nigeria cannot afford it. Look at Zamfara. Zamfara state as a part of one of the poorest states in Nigeria, whereas Zamfara is speaking of gold. So all those terrorism are being funded by foreign. Of course, if you travel to Borno, you see a lot of NGOs, foreign NGOs, claiming to be catering for the Nigerians who are under terror attack. But the question I should ask is, how did these sophisticated weapons get to the hands of the local terrorists? How did they get to their hands? How did they find their way into the country? How did they influence the locals who ordinarily were involved in cavalry using things and hands? But today they are having access to automatic machine guns and all forms of sophisticated technology they use for their terrorism activities, bombing, bomb production. How did they get access to this knowledge? How did they get access to all these facilities? These are the questions that Nigeria has. 2027 is not about tribe, it's not about religion, it's not about region. It's about the turn of the Nigerian people. Here we all sit collectively to describe the direction of Nigeria, describe the vision, the implementation of the Nigerian-made solution towards good governance. We cannot just sit down, put our hands to pray, expecting miracles to happen. It will never come to pass. If you and I get involved in the process of election, you and I must get involved. There is big interest. We want to see a 2027 where young people will take over the National Assembly. Since the existing persons in the National Assembly have not been able to impress, we don't expect that the National Assembly in this country where there is executive rascality. Bola Tinubu has consistently been borrowing and taking loans from foreign countries unabated. And you ask, what then is the need of the subsidy? So Bola Tinubu will subsidy with the sole aim that is going to have more savings to be able to cater for the needs of the Nigerian people, as well as bring about the infrastructural development. But what we have so far is unabated borrowing. Just today, I heard about the wait for yet another loan. So he has already collected. So this is unchecked, or it has become a norm when you wake up and you hear that the president is in another country trying to stay from foreign loans. And all this loan comes with a very, very devastating condition. We are talking about the American GMO foreign. All these are part of the conditions of getting foreign. You understand? So people, I don't see the Nigerian farmers being able to go to the international market to go and buy seeds and this year to be able to plant. That's why the strong Nigerian population are fighting the GMO. The GMO seed is something that has to be fighted. The population is brought about by Bill Gates in attempt to depopulate the African population.
COVID failed.
Since COVID has failed, the next one is GMO. We understand that we have to grow our own crop and we keep residual quantity of this crop to be able to plant for the next farming season. Now, if they have to phase out those crops, and they replace it with GMO.
That's it.
Artificial seed, of course. You'll be happy you have bountiful harvest for this year, but next year those seeds will be useless. You cannot plant them. So you have to go back to the company to buy in dollar. How do Nigeria or Africa survive? This is an existential threat against the entire black population, and we must rise to resist it and continue to sensitize our local farmers to continue to patronize and use their old seeds that have been handed over to them. Thank you for joining us. Children, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio. We look forward to seeing you again in our subsequent.
Anytime, any day.
All right, thank you. For me, it's good night from the studio. Whichever part being part of this program. Thank you for your time. We come again next week because our program runs on Mondays to Thursdays. And Friday, we use for the next space where we have the connection with the next platform. We want to engage them, what's trending and what's happening for the state, social community or economic issue. I remember this. Good night.